bad behavior and illegal behavior, Chris.
You banned it before they voted, and not only...
Can we please focus on the issues that matter?
We're about to take a commercial break.
Wow. But my question is, how did it even get so bad? Well, we'll answer that today. Hello and what's up, political peeps? I am your host, RF Kapoor, and welcome back to the Geopolitical. Today, we're going to be diving into the extremely controversial topic of debates here in the USA. So, as you just saw from that clip, debates have increasingly became more heated and much more controversial. But we'll see just in a couple of seconds that it hasn't always been like that. So, coming from the JFK Presidential Library, let's see the first ever nationally televised presidential debate from, at the time, Massachusetts Senator John F. Kennedy and Vice President Richard Nixon. So let's take a look at the presidential library here. And I'm going to start by just going over the first couple of minutes of this very popular debate.
Good evening. The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities for a discussion of issues in the current political campaign by the two major candidates for the presidency. The candidates need no introduction. The Republican candidate, Vice President Richard M. Nixon, and the Democratic candidate, Senator John F. Kennedy. According to rules set by the candidates themselves, each man shall make an opening statement of approximately 8 minutes duration and a closing statement of approximately 3 minutes duration. In between, the candidates will answer or comment upon answers to questions put by a panel of correspondents. In this, the first discussion in a series of 4.
So, to begin, here is the opening statement of President.
I think it will depend in great measure
Senator
upon
Kennedy.
what we do here in the United States, that we build, on the kind of strength that we maintain. We discussed tonight domestic issues, but I would not want that to be any implication to be given that this does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev for survival.
Now to take a look at President Nixon.
But when we look at the growth of GNP this year, a year of recovery, we find that it's 6 9/10% and one of the highest in the world today. We did in the Truman administration.
Later in the debate.
What about the prices you pay? We find that the prices you pay went up 5 times as much in the Truman administration as they did in the Eisenhower administration. What's the net result of this? This means that the average family income went up 15% in the Eisenhower years as against 2% in the Truman years.
So as you see, each of the candidates did voice their opinion, but despite this, nobody was throwing insults at each other, and people remained rather civil throughout these debates instead of constantly fighting and insulting people. In other debates that followed this prior to a change of rules, which we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes, people actually complimented each other frequently and noticed that these debates were here to discuss policy and nothing else beyond that. So this team of respect among the candidates and the moderators continued until about the 90s, when the Bushes and the Clintons got involved, and then politics just became so much more about power and the individuals, and then people started disrespecting not only the candidates but also the moderators. So here's a clip from the 1992 presidential debate, the first one.
Mr. President, I'm getting time cues, and with all due respect,
I don't
I'm
want to
sorry.
extend for a minute.
Let me
Let's
just
get to
one
that
point.
issue
I
of-
got to answer this.
So as you can see, now it's about fighting the moderators, not just the fellow candidates. So again, it's just constantly about the fight and your own motives, not about the people. And it just continuously and progressively gets worse. So then, following this, in 1992, the debates were opened up a little bit more. This debate was an example of that. People were getting mad at each other, etc. Then, following this in 2008, when Obama was running for the first time, the debate rules totally changed, and now candidates were able to talk to each other, and this was actually encouraged.
The fundamentals of the economy are sound. I do not think that they are.
Say it directly to him.
Well, John, 10 days ago, you said that the fundamentals of the economy are sound. And
You afraid I couldn't hear him?
I'm just determined to get you all to talk to each.
So see, people were friendly to each other, laughing and exchanging jokes and stuff. This was just the beginning of the time when people started getting more harsh in these presidential debates. Now, 4 years later, Obama also changed his debating style.
I had a question, and the question was, how much did you cut them by?
You want me to answer
How
a
much did you
question?
cut them by?
A solar company.
I'm happy to respond.
If you're investing government money in someone else's, absolutely not.
Governor,
That's the wrong way to go.
the fact of the matter
I'm still
is,
speaking.
well-
So I want to make sure that we make America more.
Yeah, it's just messed up how progressively the debates have gotten worse and worse, and then now people are talking over each other, etc. And then soon after this, the changes continued coming, and then, of course, President Trump got involved. And now the debates are entirely based on, insulting each other, and based on the most recent presidential debate, which took place just a couple weeks ago between Vice President Kamala Harris and President Trump. I got nothing out of the debate. I watched the debate. I have gotten absolutely no value out of the debate. All that really came out of it was just one man insulting, another woman, and there's nothing constructive about it. That's what the debates were originally designed to be, and that's why some people actually, the first couple candidates were reluctant to do a debate, like in the 50s, because they were afraid it would become conflict and you wouldn't really share the information, which is what the debates were designed to be, just a source of information and an exchange of policy and ideologies. But soon that fear became a reality. So here are a couple clips from the painful to watch debate a couple Thursdays ago.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you.
So first of all, I'm actually surprised they shook hands. In the past Trump versus President Biden debates, they actually stopped shaking hands, which is actually really, really sad because that just shows how divided we are as a nation. And actually, in this clip, as you can see, Vice President Harris was the bigger person, and she went over and shook Trump's hand despite past political conflict between the two. And actually, they had never met before this time, given how much people think they hated each other.
Both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early.
Okay, so we're here, right, in this debate. They're here to convince the voters that, hey, you should vote for me because of this. But if these voters are already going to be convinced, right, because of Vice President Harris's comments, right, because of her policy and theory, right, why is she bringing up people leaving President Trump's rallies? What does that have anything to do with the policy? At that point, that's just, again, this is a theme, hating on President Trump. But if people were already leaving his rallies, then they already would have, then Vice President Harris would already have their vote. So this is just nonsensical, whatever she's saying at this point.
Out of exhaustion and boredom.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do.
Again, why is it President Trump's place to talk about who and who doesn't go to Vice President Harris's rallies?
Go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she has a plan.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say.
Also making stuff up. This is supposed to be a share of policy and, facts, but we haven't seen that since 2016.
As I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of
This is pure nonsense right now. Like, regardless, I mean, why is this a topic in an American presidential debate? Why is this necessary? In the greatest country in the world, why are we talking about eating dogs and eating cats? Because these claims aren't even supported. So it's by the Springfield Police Department. So I don't even know where this stuff is coming from.
the people that live there.
You talk about extreme.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
One does not have to abandon their faith.
So do you see that? They didn't show it in this Guardian clip, but following that, there was like a heated yelling exchange between President Trump and the moderator. What did the moderator ever do to you?
Faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted?
She hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war.
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. So I think you've heard tonight.
Again, if Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. That is completely nonsensical, given the fact that Donald Trump is known for, although having a strong rapport with these world leaders, including Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping in China, who pose threats to American democracy, etc. He's known for keeping a firm hand on these people and speaking with them firmly with through a good rapport. But unfortunately, that is thought of as a bad thing by his oppositions, given that even though that this friendliness to these people allows for smoother negotiations in a way.
2 very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past.
She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
It is really sad. Thank you so much to The Guardian, by the way, for this clip. So we could kind of go over how this debate has sadly gone. So now I thought we would end this with a little bit of a funny clip when the presidential candidate Donald Trump faced Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. This just shows how much they hated each other. Some member from the audience asked a funny question.
We've sneaked in one more question, and it comes from Carl Becker.
Good evening. My question to both of you is, regardless of the current rhetoric, would either of you name one positive thing that you respect in one another?
Mr. Trump, would you like to go first?
Well, I certainly will, because I think that's a very fair and important question. Look, I respect his children. His children are incredibly able and devoted, and I think that says a lot about Donald. I don't agree with nearly anything else he says or does, but I do respect that. And I think that is something that as a mother and a grandmother is very important to me. So I believe that this election has become in part so conflict-oriented, so intense, because there's a lot at stake. This is not an ordinary time, and this is not an ordinary election. we are going to be choosing a president who will set policy for not just 4 or 8 years, but because of some of the important decisions we have to make here at home and around the world, from the Supreme Court to energy and so much else. And so there is a lot at stake. It's one of the most consequential elections that we've had. And that's why I've tried to put forth specific policies and plans, trying to get it off of the personal and put it on to what it is I want to do as president. And that's why I hope people will check on that for themselves so that they can see that, yes, I've spent 30 years, actually maybe a little more, working to help kids and families, and I want to take all that experience to the White House and do that every single day.
Mr. Trump.
Well, I consider her statement about my children to be a very nice compliment. I don't know if it was meant to be a compliment, but it is a great. I'm very proud of my children, and they've done a wonderful job, and they've been wonderful, wonderful kids. So I consider that a compliment. I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that. I tell it like it is. She's a fighter. I disagree with much of what she's fighting for. I do disagree with her judgment in many cases. But she does fight hard, and she doesn't quit, and she doesn't give up. And I consider that to be a very good trait.
Yeah, that was hard for them. And you could tell that, they were struggling. But, the presidential candidates of 60 years ago, that was normal. So it really is sad to see how this country has increasingly become more about power than the people in politics. So on that note, unfortunately, peace out, political peeps, and I will catch you next week for more election news locally in Connecticut and beyond.